And she was an advisor on Mike Huckabee's presidential campaign. Former TV news anchor Alice Stewart joins us. Good to see you all. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
All right. Well, look, Barack Obama wants some Republicans to buy into this, what will be with interest $1.1 trillion in a spending program. Republicans today, I'm talking to them, are saying they're not buying it. And even the tax cut portion of it, 35%, well, half of that's a welfare program. Why should Republicans buy into that?
Because the economy is in dire straits and we need to do something. And I think what is really great about what President Obama is doing is he's really reaching across the aisle. He's met with congressional Republicans 3 times. Rahm Emanuel is meeting with congressional Republicans tonight. He gave in on tax cuts for small businesses. He gave in on 75%.
Gave in on contraception that Nancy Pelosi won. That's a big concession.
You know, that actually would have saved states $825 million. Nancy Pelosi did a terrible job explaining that. If she would have done the right thing to explain it, I don't think there would have been this uproar, but he actually gave in on that too.
I don't think he's showing bipartisan cooperation. I think that proposal was just a throwaway proposal because I don't think he was ever going to seriously consider that anyway, because it made about as much sense as telling people to inflate your tires to solve the energy crisis.
No, that's a good point.
It wasn't going to make sense.
David, I believe in free market capitalism.
Right, I do too.
$1.1 trillion, you know, historically, FDR's Treasury Secretary said 7 years into spending, Morgenthau, he said, it didn't work. It didn't work for Japan. It hasn't worked.
Well, Japan didn't try it.
They had 8 stimulus plans.
Yeah, but those were monetary plans. Those were not fiscal stimulus plans. And I think the issue is we've gone about as far as we can with monetary stimulus. And the question is, what are we going to do? We've got people getting out of work. We've got the economy cratering. And the question is, what are we going to do? I don't think anybody has the perfect answer to that. But I think everybody knows that we've got to pump some jobs into the economy.
All right, but if we analyze the CBO analysis, which is supposedly the gold standard that Congress is to use analyzing this plan, they've determined that all these infrastructure projects, they're not going to come on board till 2010. Obama's using the word jolt to the economy. So if it doesn't come on board till 2010...
Well, it's a combination of things. First, all the spending doesn't come on board until 2010. But one of the things that you do is if you start, for example, building roads, you begin employing people even though a lot of the money isn't spent until 6, 8, 10, 12, 18 months later. That's exactly
right. You put these people to work now. And I think what the CBO analysis did say is that 75% of the dollars are going to go in the first 18 months. And the tax cuts as well.
But that's not a jolt to the economy. By then, they're also saying the recession's over.
The alternative, though, is to do nothing.
What are we going to do? The question is, what are we going to do? I agree with you, okay? Yeah. Giving people rebate checks is crazy, okay? That doesn't stimulate the economy. Didn't work when Bush and the Democratic Congress did it. Is not going to work now. The question is, what is going to work? And we've got to have some plan. We cannot just let the economy
One plan has always worked. Tax cuts. You know, President Bush got us out of the recession and the negative impact of 9/11 with tax cuts. Reagan got us out of the Carter years with tax cuts.
There's a tremendous difference. There's a tremendous difference, okay?
Yeah.
Tax cuts work really well when people take the money and spend it, okay? But when people are worried about the future and they're worried about their jobs, they don't take that money and spend it, they save it.
That's exactly right.
What we have to do is we need to provide tax cuts to the working Americans because they're the ones that are providing jobs and creating positions for people to continue to make money. We need tax cuts for the working Americans. We don't need tax breaks for those who aren't working.
But tax cuts don't create a single job. We need infrastructure spending like the New Deal, and that's really the key to this. We have to do what we did in 1933.
You know, I look at government, and I like what Ronald Reagan said, and I'm a big Reagan fan. And Reagan said government is the problem, not the solution. And he limited the size and scope of influence of government to the extent he could, and he cut taxes dramatically, 70 to 28%. He inherited a really bad economy. And I don't understand one thing, and maybe either one of you guys on the more left, you're more moderate, David, can explain this. Social Security is bankrupt. Medicare is bankrupt. Our educational system is a disgrace for considering the amount of money we spend. Why do you have so much faith in the government? I don't have it.
Well,
I have faith in the ingenuity of the American people.
But you can't have faith either simply in private enterprise.
But
look what the banks did, okay? Look what the private banks did to our economy. What you've got to do is you've got to have a combination of the free market system, which I am a strong believer in. I totally believe in the free market system, okay? But right now, we have a crisis that's very different from the Reagan crisis.
Let me add one other point to this, and then we'll go to you. The banks were forced to make risky loans because of redistribution mentality, which said every American, it's their right to own a home. So they forced them to lower their standards.
Nobody forced them to do that.
No, the government did. The government mandated it.
What the government did was they made money too easy. The government made money too easy.
They made it too tempting, and that was both Bush and congressional Democrats. What I would just say is that we've had years and years of deregulation. It doesn't work. And what President Obama said in the speech, it's not whether government is good or whether government is bad. Let's just make it work. And that's what we got to be the focus.
Well, I think what's key is here, and he's talking about bipartisan support. He never brought Republicans to the table to begin with to hear their ideas, and now what we have is this package that's basically dressing to a turkey. He's stuffing it down their throats, and they have no choice but to accept it. It's a huge proposal, and they're rushing it through, and it needs to be discussed.
All right, we got to talk about I couldn't have you here, David, and talk about the Minnesota recount. We're going to get to that. Also, the interview with Al Arabiya Television that Barack Obama gave. We'll get to that with our panel when we get back.